Hello, this is Jimmy Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. So first we have former state employee and her husband pled guilty to conspiracy to unlawfully produce Tennessee's driver's license from justice.gov by Chabanay, and that is, I would agree, that's ultimately why you need to make you can't have all these licenses. I went to my local Wawa night. I looked at the container of all the board of all the licenses they had. They must have had like 12, 15 licenses there. So it's just you just can't have all these licenses. Soon they might just have. You might just why not just have breathing licenses or existing licenses or what's next? The license to toast in your own damn toaster, as Darrell W. Perry famously said at the 2016 Libertarian National Convention. And ultimately, I think that's why the license is essential. We shouldn't have the state. You shouldn't need to ask permission of from the state to do anything. And that's why I think we need to get rid of licenses rather than just. And if you want to unlawfully produce them, I think the state shouldn't have a right to produce them either. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Produce whatever. If you want to justify producing your own licenses, then that's ultimately on you. So yeah, you should be able to produce your own licenses because the state shouldn't have a monopoly on what can give permission for. Then we have Massachusetts assault weapons ban ruled constitutional by judge from news.bloomberglaw.com by Chabanay. And I personally think that just to show you how much they don't care about the Constitution. They said, oh, the right to bear arms should not be infringed, but they keep on interpreting that more and more stringently, and soon they'll just be able to take whatever guns they want from you because because they don't care about the Constitution at all. It's just a means to an end for them. They'll find a way to get around it whenever possible. It's like if people didn't fight back, then that New Mexican governor, she would have been able to take everyone's guns because it would be an emergency. And she could declare those being her emergency powers. So it goes to show you that the state can do whatever it wants. The Constitution's pretty much just a thing so they can move out of the way just like that. Then we have Trudeau says he's concerned about what a Trump win would mean for climate action from CDC.ca by Chabanay. And I think this is just another Trudeau circle jerk. Trudeau is always circle jerking, whatever the progressive talking points are, and, that gets kind of tiring after a while. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Evergreen from Eudaimonia on Twitter, and that's his, he posted a picture of a tweet from, at Dolphin Basad, who goes as a pigeon enjoyer, it looks like. It's very weird how there are a handful of bizarre positions, such as shoplifting is good, visiting Hawaii is evil, etc., that absolutely no normal person believes. But on Twitter, you have to treat them like real serious ideas because they're disproportionately held by vindictive nuts. And I said, Twitter is not a real place, and that was a quote from Dave Chappelle. The problem is, much like academia, it has an outsized grip on culture and society. That's why ultimately, it's really just probably the average Twitter person or academia person probably is probably like only like 1/10 of 1% of the average American, I would say. But sadly, they control most of the culture and society, and that's why you need to you have to remember that. Missouri School Board votes to remove Black History classes. The all-white school board voted 5-2 to stop offering Black History and literature courses from HuffPost.com by Whittling Man. And I didn't think I comment on this one, but yeah. I like what Paper Big 1409 says here. Good. Why do they need black classes in the first place? Do they have classes of Asian only history, white only history, Oshini only history? I think that was a good point. I personally think if the school wants to teach Black history, they should be able to. But it's important to remember: do taxpayers want their money going to that? I think personally, we should be trying to teach just American history, not, the history of specific groups. There's a lot of Black history and American history that you can teach. And I don't know if we need a separate Black History class, so I think I kind of agree with what they say there. Then we have Defund the Police Advocate asks for more cops from hotair.com by Chabonet. And that just goes to show you that that I would say how ultimately people, want more police, but only if they control them. That's my thoughts on that issue. That's why the defund the police people just want police that they control in a lot of instances, rather than getting rid of police entirely. And that's ultimately something I think we need. I think we need each individual person to rather police their own actions rather than the state to police things. But that's just my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, speaking at the UN, WEF young global leader and former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, declares free speech a weapon of war in the globalist war against so-called disinformation, i.e. any information that exposes the agenda for global control by unelected global technocrats. From that's a tweet from Wide Awake Media from Twitter, and that's from Chabonet. And I would agree with that tweet. The thing is that the elites who control the narrative know that the free and open internet is the biggest threat to their control of the narrative, and that's why they want to shut it down and restrict it as much as possible. They say, "Oh, I'm for free speech, but what about disinformation? What about hate speech?" And the thing is, they can just label anything they don't like disinformation or hate speech, and that's something I always try and note because ultimately they want control of the narrative, and that's why they fear the free and open internet so much and try and want it to shut down as badly as possible. Then we have Democrats' push to impose a code of conduct on the U.S. Supreme Court is driven by their desire to exert power over a court that hasn't been ruling their way on key issues, legal experts say, from the EpochTimes.com, by everyone by Chabonet. And I think the thing is that there is no really code of conduct on any of the government. The government really just is going to justify what justifies, and I think the thing is that people only care when it's the politicians of the other party that get away with something rather than the politicians of their own party. And ultimately that's just how it's gonna be, as long as the government, I don't think, is never going to hold itself accountable as long as they can distract you with the stories of how bad the other party is, even though they're both, I would say, equally bad in their regards of how much they don't care for how much they just use their positions of government influence to grift and otherwise ignore the Constitution. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Leftists Today, and it's a edit of it's from by Chabonet. It's an edit of a Stone Toss comic. The guy in the communist shirt is doing tug of war against Javier Milei, and the Argentinian shirt on the right. And then the big businessman comes up to help the communist guy, and he says, "Huh?" And I think that's a good argument for what's happening in Argentina right now. The big businesses who don't like having their companies, privatized and all that. They don't want they want an authoritarian government. Like in the U.S. we don't really have capitalism. We have crony capitalism where the big businesses and big government is intertwined. They don't want their contracts taken away by the government and given to the common people. They want just to really just keep their position of government influence. And Milei, as a libertarian who's saying, "I'm going to buck the status quo," is showing that he might be a threat to that, and that's why they're aligning with the commies. Then we have Little Pink House, a video from John Stossel on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, "It's sad, but not surprising that the state can just bulldoze your house and do nothing but when the land they stole from you." And that's ultimately how, that's the very statist perspective of life. How the government can just walk in and take whatever it wants from you, and sometimes there might be nothing you can do about it. And that's ultimately how why I'm very anti-government, because no one can really hold the government accountable, because it has the monopoly on force and the ability to take whatever it wants to, and that's something that really scares me. Then we have federal student loans drive up college tuition levels from Mises.org by Chabanay, and I personally would agree that that's not good. You know, that's why I think we need to get the government out of all student loans, I would say. I personally have a student loan, but I think that's the thing is I probably should have known better right when I took it, and if I probably would have done it, I probably wouldn't have gone to college. I probably would have just uh maybe done trade school or something. I don't know. Then we have The Pitfalls of Seizing Russian Assets to Fund Ukraine from FinancialTimes.com by Chabanay. And I agree that's not very good, because you shouldn't just be seizing people's assets even if you're at a proxy war with them, because I think that's just not the right thing to do. It's you shouldn't steal even from your worst enemies, because that's not a good thing to do. You don't just justify stealing because the narrative says it's okay. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have ICE leaked these asylum seekers' personal information. A court just dismissed their lawsuit from Reason.com by 2000 Time of Charm. And I agree. That's, I think personally, why we need to abolish ICE and all the other free letter agencies, because they are just gonna do whatever they want to, and no one will hold them accountable for it. Then we have tampons now offered in Canadian Parliament men's bathrooms from nypost.com by Chabanay, and I said they probably have urinals in the women's bathrooms as well. And then Head Smiles replied, so how's that hurting you? I said, I agree, but that doesn't mean I or others can't find it to be a little bit weird. You know, I personally think if you want to put whatever you want in the bathroom, that's fine. But some people might think it's weird if there's urinals in the women's bathroom and tampons in the men's bathrooms. That's my thought on that issue. Then we have NYC Charter School students outscore public school peers on state English math exams from 2000 Time of Charm, and that's the link to the, and I think that's why and I said yeah, I said school choice is still a fascist dog whistle. Dead denizens of the subreddit, because a lot of subreddits they think everything that's goes against the narrative is a fascist. The DNC narrative is a fascist dog whistle, and school choice is no different. I would say in that regard. I personally think I think we should be able to have everyone should be able to choose whatever they want for their school, and they shouldn't be forced to go to public school if they don't want to. And that's something that I think is a libertarian option. Then we have, under Argentina's new president, fuels up 60% and diaper prices have doubled from nytimes.com by Dangerous Ad 8554. And I said, I didn't really comment too much on this one because I think they have me blocked. But I think, the thing is ultimately, I think this is just another story of the mainstream media trying to make Malay look bad. They don't really have a bias, as Mike Morales says. They have an agenda. They try and push this narrative on you that everyone who's do disagree with something at all is bad. And I personally think Malay isn't perfect. In some ways he's a stab you in the backhand, as they say, since especially since he justifies crushing down on protests with the state force. But I think they're ultimately after him because he dissents from their worldview, and that's important to remember. Then we have Belarus leader says Russian nuclear weapons self-shipments are completed, raising concern in the region from APnews.com by Chabanay, and I personally don't think that's good, and yeah, I think that's why, we should stop getting into conflict with people who have nuclear weapons. Then we have studies show sex could be a better predictor of sports performance and gender identity. Published in BMJ Open Sports and Exercise Medicine, the authors believe that their findings suggest it is valuable to include both sex and gender identity data collection from kcl.ac.uk by Chabanay, and I think that is important because, I personally think, we do need to make sports as fair as possible, and when you have biological males competing in women's sports. I don't think that's something that is very fair, personally. But it ultimately comes down to who it's a freedom of association and who wants to play with whom, I guess. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have to my fellow libertarians who may not agree with me on every single issue, and they have a quote from looks like Morgan Freeman here. Just because it's your view does not mean that I hate you. I hate you. We need you further than our society. I said, agreed. I don't care for a lot of the state's rhetoric here, but that's mean I hate those who say I'm very big into the Christian idea of loving those who hate you. So then we have Baghdad condemns U.S. airstrikes in Babylon and Wasit province from IraqiNews.com by Frosty Slawman. And I agree that's not that I would condemn those as well. The U.S. shouldn't be airstriking Iran, especially since they're not at war with them. And they have been for at least a decade now, I think. So that's something that's important to note. Then we have MSC container ship attacked in the Red Sea. Owner confirms a statement from the group confirmed earlier claims made by Yemen's Houthi rebels that they had attacked 8204 TEU MSC United VIII 8 built 2006 at approximately 12:25 UTC from TradeWindNews.com by Chabanay. And I personally think that's not good. And yeah, we shouldn't be justifying attacking other ships, even if they're your enemies. So that's my thoughts there. Don't attack people, or unless it's in self defense. That's my thoughts on that issue. And I think we're gonna wrap up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.